Hi and welcome. I'm going to get started. I'm just going to give people a few minutes to get online. And, you know, I sometimes am late for meetings, not going to lie. Just want to make sure that I'm live. Sometimes I have two meetings set up for the same day. I don't know why. So, but I'm just going to wait a few minutes. I'll try not to talk. I'm probably going to talk, right? I hope you guys are having a great week. Um, as you notice, I am in a tank top. I'm in San Diego and it's very warm here. So, just to let you know that. So, okay. So I'm just waiting. Oh, good, you're watching me. Great. And you can hear me? Oh, good, lovely. All right. Well, I guess I should get started, but I know people are always late, so I try not to, I try to be nice to you, but I guess I'll get started, all right? So, and I'm always going to end with a good note because for you guys in the industry, whoever you are, agencies as well as attorneys or some people on the clinic side, even my clients and intended parents, I mean, we're living in kind of crazy times right now. So I'm going to start with some things that may not be hugely positive, but I always like to end on a good note. All right, so let's get started. We're in Florida. If you watched last time, there was some news out of Florida that was not so great, but we are in Florida. They did pass a bill, and it's the Foreign Interference Restriction and Enforcement Act. I didn't read the whole entire bill. However, one part of it did apply for surrogacy. And so if you are a Chinese national, Russian, Cuban, I think Iran, there's certain countries you cannot do a surrogacy in Florida and you cannot do adoption in Florida. Utah has proposed a similar statute. So it is not great news for the Chinese, but there's 50 states in the United States. So, if Utah passes, well, then we're going to count Utah out. I don't expect a lot of other states to follow suit, but you do not know, right? So that passed. I was more concerned about amendments to their surrogacy statute, and that would have really affected some of my intended parents right now who are not from China. They're from other countries. One's from Belgium, one's from Australia, and they are, getting matched right now and going through medical clearance. So I was really worried for them. But that portion did not move forward. But this had a lot of support. So this moved forward. So that happened in Florida, right? And then also, again, Rick Scott and Tom Cotton, they're senators in the United States. They actually sent a letter to Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, calling for the Department of Justice to investigate Chinese-owned surrogacy centers in the United States. The senators allege that these agencies have ties to Chinese state-owned entities and are exploiting birthright citizenship, and they're utilizing this for wealthy Chinese. The letter did say that there are over 107 Chinese-owned surrogacy agencies in Southern California alone. So there's over 107 just in Southern California. Who knows how many there are across the whole entire United States? I know we do in California have a large Asian population and a Chinese population. Again, what I want to say is that you need backing in the United States. I'm sure it's the same in any other country. When a bill gets proposed, there was a deadline. They wanted a letter from Pam Bondi, talking about the national security risk. Of course, there's a major IVF center called HRC in Southern California, which is owned by the Chinese. So I think that is also something to consider, but that's already a done deal. They already bought it. Federal government let them buy it. So, and this happened, I don't know, I think 10 years ago. Anyways, so they gave Pam Bondi a date of March 13th to respond. She hasn't responded. I don't know if this is what we call political theater. I don't know what's going to happen. So I will definitely, try to keep tabs on this, and see where it's going to go. But so far, she hasn't responded, so we don't know where it's going to go. Staying back in Florida, there's a lot going on in Florida, not gonna lie. Somebody said, when Florida gets a cold, the whole country sneezes. I think I said that last time. So maybe next time there won't be so much out of Florida. But the Florida case, that IVF case where a woman delivered a baby and, the baby was a different race. They could tell, wasn't theirs. They did DNA that confirmed it. They are suing the doctor, but they for the IVF clinic, and the IVF clinic is cooperating with them. They are fairly close to finding out who the actual parents are. So, that's going to be gut wrenching for Tiffany, who carried that baby, and Steve and her husband. They've cared for this baby. She carried that baby to give that baby up, but they definitely do want to find the parents for that child. And they also want to find out if somebody also carried their embryo. I have some information, and they really do feel that their embryo, if it was utilized, did not result in a pregnancy. But, it doesn't happen very often. It's shocking how much it doesn't happen. When I did IVF, they were very careful about labeling and things like that. I would say though that definitely, since it's happened, and I did mention the LA case where, one couple carried the other couple's baby, and then they've become friends, and they've created this beautiful relationship from a tragedy that, clinics really need to look at their systems and what they need to do to not ever have this happen again, right? Because how devastating for, even to think that it could happen. All right, we talk about birthright citizenship. As you know, there was the executive order in January 2025 that Trump signed, aiming to get rid of birthright citizenship. That means any child born in the United States, no matter if their parents are here temporarily or illegally, that child is a citizen of the United States. So the case is going to be heard by the Supreme Court on the merits in April. So I'll give you an update on that. And then there will be a hearing, not a hearing, the results of that will be end of June, probably beginning of July, because it's going to be the last case that they're going to release. I have to tell you, which I tell all my intended parents who are not US citizens, there will be a way to get you home. If they rule and they say birthright citizenship is gone in the United States and they rule for Trump, then I always think of the inverse. Like if I was in France, Belgium, Spain, wherever, and I had my child, there would be a process for me to get home, and my child would not be a citizen of that country. So if they ruled against that, I say that it's going to take months. They probably wouldn't say, oh, today, it's over with. No, that's not how it works. They're going to understand that if they change this, every county in every state, every office is going to have to change their processes, and that's going to take time. So it's not going to be an abrupt, immediate change. At least I don't think so. And if it was, then the states would sue them because they say we don't have time, right? But the American Bar Association, which is the largest bar association for attorneys, so it's the attorney organization, has filed what's called an amicus brief. So you file a brief to the court, Supreme Court, saying, I support this or I don't, and they do not support it. They said that it would cause legal chaos, like I just mentioned, and it violates the 14th Amendment of our Constitution. So that's good news. Very happy to see that. And so I have to say, I'm actually a little bit happier about the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. Usually, the Catholics are not with us regarding surrogacy, but in this case, they have also filed a brief, and they say that they oppose eliminating birthright citizenship from a theological of course, they are a church and a moral standpoint, and they have actually directed it to our Catholic Supreme Court justices. Amy Coney Barrett is one of them, and Brett Kavanaugh. And they say it would undermine the county's moral foundations and it would violate Catholic teaching. So they really have come forward for this. So yay, we'll see how that turns out. I know all my clients, some of them have decided to pause their surrogacy until they find out, and then we'll see how it goes. Like I said, we will get you home no matter what happens. So just keep that in mind. But I'll keep you updated. We will know after the hearing, whatever after the oral arguments hearing, oral arguments, because we're in the Supreme Court, after the oral arguments, there's usually a tell, like how the justices are going to go. So we'll keep you posted and see all about that, right? Okay, so for all my agency people, I've had surrogates out of Kentucky, right? So just to let you know, there is a representative in Kentucky who has posted a bill to make commercial surrogacy a felony in the state. I don't know if she has any backing for this. So I have no idea. There was an article and there's, one agency who's like, I don't agree with this. Of course not. She's a former surrogate herself. And I have to say, I do not agree with altruistic surrogacy. If you agree not to get paid as a woman because you're the one who is risking your health and your life, that is one thing entirely. I had a surrogate. She was my younger cousin. I paid her. People ask me that all the time. Of course I paid her. You cannot clock out. I know nobody physically clocks out anymore, but you cannot say, okay, done with work, done with being pregnant. No, it is 24/7. And again, your health and life is at risk. Now, of course, with modern science and everything, chances are when a woman gets pregnant, she's fine. But talk to any woman who has been pregnant and who has delivered a baby, and she'll tell you what's changed in her body forever. It is work. It's hard work. She's growing a human in her body. So, anyways, I'll just keep you posted on this. I don't agree with this at all. Even in Canada, where they say it's altruistic, these women do get expenses. They do get some form of payment, right? As they should, right? I know the world doesn't agree with this, human trafficking, but we in the United States, for the most part, and I know there has been some negative press from just especially this one case where this couple had 23 plus children and they ran the agency. That is such an anomaly. For the most part, the people that I work with, we're trying to help people have children. That is it, right? So in Canada, it's altruistic and it's so difficult to find a surrogate. So I'll keep you posted on that, but I definitely hope that that doesn't go forward. But for you agencies, just kind of follow that. If you want, just shoot me an email or text, and I can see if I can find out more information. But I'll keep track of that for you. And then now we go to California. I didn't really work with this doctor, Dr. Acasio, Brian Acasio. He has shut his doors, so slam shut, no more. They're done. And it was kind of like, one minute he's open, the next he's not. But what he did is he transferred all the embryos in his clinic, obviously, because he's not at that clinic anymore, to a place in Bakersfield. And so the couples are suing him because he wants them to sign a waiver, probably a waiver not to sue him. I don't know. I haven't seen it. And the couples are refusing. They're like, no, this is our genetic material, and you shouldn't be able to take it and to some place that we didn't approve of, and then, make us sign a waiver. So they feel like their embryos are kidnapped as well as their eggs and their sperm. We'll see where that goes. But he is no longer Dr. Brian Ocasio. So I'm sorry if you worked with him and you're stuck in that bit of turmoil and mess. Because you were just trying to have a baby, right? And then staying sort of in that theme in Ohio, there was a 7-year case with this couple who got divorced, and the ex-wife was battling to keep the embryos and to be allowed to utilize them in a way that she wanted to. I have to tell you that in California, it's very clear. You sign consent forms for a medical procedure and you sign separate documents for embryo disposition. It's a little weird. I still remember it when I went in to go and get my IVF. The doctor's like, okay, now what do you want done? Or the nurse, probably the nurse, not the doctor. What do you want done with your embryos if you die? You're like, die? I'm coming in to have a baby. Like, or if you get divorced. Well, we're still together. We're not planning on divorcing. Like, so you're going to have a baby. You're not going to talk about this, but to just be prepared. Anyways, these documents in Ohio at this clinic were ambiguous, the court found. They weren't very clear. They weren't like California. So, all you clinics, anybody working for a clinic, make separate documents. Consent for medical procedure. What do you do with your embryos, your eggs, your genetic material if you divorce, if you die? Two separate documents, little paragraphs after each sentence, signatures you sign, initial, things like that. So what they did is the court gave the embryos to the woman to utilize. So she can utilize them. She can have surrogate. She can do whatever she wants with them. She's probably going to try to get pregnant. They actually said that the husband is now looked on as a sperm donor. So he has requested to remain anonymous. Yeah, good luck with that with 23andMe and Ancestry.com. Not quite sure how that's going to happen. And I don't know if they've already had children. Probably since she's tried for 7 years, I'm going to say no, that she doesn't have any children. But he has agreed to be anonymous and looked upon as a sperm donor. So just to make sure that when you go into the clinic that those consent forms, there are times that we look at them, our clients say, can you look at all the documents? So, and that is one thing that we definitely look after. What do you want done with your embryos, right? And then, oh my gosh, Costco. So if you're not in this country, but oh wait, Costco's everywhere. Sorry, forgot. I think they're all across the world, I want to say. They have partnered with some people in space to provide more affordable IVF and IUI, artificial insemination care, as well as drugs. They made the drugs. Oh God, I say drugs all the time. Sorry, medication. They are drugs though. And then people don't know when you go in and you get a price for your IVF, it doesn't include the medication, and the medication is so expensive. I think it's still $5,000 plus each cycle. So you're like, oh, sticker shock. So what Costco has done is for a monthly fee of $99 for members and $119 for non-members. Isn't that wonderful? You receive a virtual consultation, so you can, get some consultation and then get your diagnostic workup because you definitely do need diagnostic workup. We need to know why you're not getting pregnant. Is it the man or is it the woman? I know most people think it's the woman if you're in a heterosexual relationship, but could be the guy. It's not always us, right? And then they've made the cost of the medication less. So I don't know how much less. I don't have the figures. But they estimate that it's going to help like between $5,000 and $10,000 per cycle, and cycles are expensive. They start at 30,000. Maybe you can get it for 25, and then they go up to 45 to $50,000 depending upon who your doctor is and where you're at. So that is wonderful news, and I think it's great that it's available to everybody without a membership. So I know it still makes it expensive here without insurance, but every little bit helps. When I was going through it, there was no insurance and no help like that. So I think that's great. Oh, and now we're going to talk about sperm. I know it's really not a legal kind of thing, but it does relate to IVF and embryos and getting pregnant and artificial insemination. It's not a big shock, though, really, if you think about it. When are sperm faster? In summer, because of course it's warmer. So there was this study, sorry. And they said, wow, the ability sperm to swim effectively, because if you're getting pregnant naturally, but even I think for IVF, you might want it to check out when the sperm would be best. It's in the summer months, and particularly June and July. I don't know why June and July, because I have to say in San Diego, June and July, we have May gray and June gloom, and sometimes July gloom. So August and September is usually great. If you would like to plan a vacation in San Diego, start August, September, October. It's usually lovely. And all of California, actually. It's usually a great time to come here. So don't know why June and July, but that's what they said. And they said it was the lowest in December. It's pretty interesting though, because I have to say the transfer with my surrogate was in December. So there's that. I don't know if it really matters for IVF, but interesting little tidbit. Oh my gosh, still talking about sperm, but not in a good way. There was, I think, a doctor in Indiana, I think. There was a Netflix special. I don't remember it. Okay, I'm really thirsty. I drink a lot of water. Over 100 ounces a day. I know it's a lot. I just think it's healthy for you. And now it's a habit, so I can't stop. Anyways, a doctor in Indiana, there was a Netflix documentary. If you haven't seen it, just kind of Google Netflix documentary. A doctor who used his sperm without consent. Nobody found out until Ancestry.com and 23andMe. I think there are over 100 siblings and counting. So And there was no law that prevented this. So keep in mind, each state in the United States has to have their own set of laws, and nobody thought about that a doctor couldn't find fresh sperm or wanted to use his sperm. Well, obviously, this doctor in Indiana or whatever state his sperm was was used and was good in that regard. Anyways, so a doctor in the Netherlands did the same thing. He fathered at least 16 children. The Netherlands are saying it's illegal how he did it because there was no consent. It was during the 70s and 80s. And of course, now with all the DNA testing, the children have found out. He said that they couldn't find fresh donors. At that time, it was interesting. It was mostly medical students because IVF was done and artificial insemination at hospitals and university hospitals first. They weren't separate clinics. And I know a admin from a hospital, and he said, "Oh yes, all the medical students were told that we had to be sperm donors." I was like, "Okay," and they did. They got paid a little extra money. So, anyways, little tidbit there. I was like, "Well, could you say no? I need to ask him this, like, or was it just something that you guys did?" Anyways, he told me, he goes, "Oh, I'm never doing 23andMe." I'm like, "No, you can't." And he has children. I mean, so obviously he probably has children from his sperm donation. So this doctor in the Netherlands didn't get consent. There's 16, at least 16 children. They have now said that, that is not part of our law. It's against the law to do it. There is a hereditary disease. Okay, when you do genetic testing and you go through IVF, we all are carriers for something. They didn't say what it was, but they did urge the women affected to get DNA testing. So I have a feeling it's not something that is like, oh, I have that, something a little bit higher than that. But they did say that it really, there were gaps in sperm donation oversight, not only just in the Netherlands, it was here in the across the world, US, everything. So they have a national registry and they have a strict limit of 12 families per donor, which I think is good. And so on that same lines, there was a doctor in Michigan. Yes, who did the same thing. He used his sperm without consent. And so the Michigan House has passed a fertility fraud package, which is really great because we have one in California because it wasn't a doctor using his sperm. It was doctors in Irvine that were using embryos. Like they would take my embryo and put it into somebody else. Oh, miracle, you got pregnant. Crazy. Yeah. So we have had a type of statute. It's in our health code for years, I think since the 90s because of that. But in Michigan, there was a doctor, Dr. Pevin, who used his own sperm. without their knowledge. Oh, geez. So hopefully this passes and you can't do that in Michigan. But really and truly, it is state by state. So there are still some states in the United States that you can do this, right? And staying in the whole sperm realm, but this is a really, I mean, it's a good story, but a sad story. There's an 8-year-old boy who has testicular cancer, which that kind of cancer for men, they usually comes up, before, early 20s. Now insurance covers that, which is wonderful for, especially for young children. You don't know what the future is going to hold. You don't know if you want children. And to have cancer and have that treatment and have that gone, that option gone when you may want to have children, that's really something that it could be heartbreaking. So insurance covers it because obviously if insurance didn't cover it, it wouldn't be available to people. But that little 8-year-old boy, when he grows up, they're going to bank it. They're going to, definitely, hold on to it. Hopefully, if he wants children, he's going to be able to have that option for himself. So, and he was the first patient to undergo in the state. So, good for him. His name is Keaton. I don't know him. But I always like to highlight some happy things and that insurance covers it. If you're not in the United States, you know, insurance is very tricky here. So, it's good for them, right? Really, really good for them. And hopefully that little boy makes a great recovery, right? So in the United States, you can keep your frozen genetic material forever. You've heard about like frozen embryos, frozen for 26 years, and a baby being born. The process is amazing. For embryos and sperm, eggs are a little bit trickier. Eggs are like an ice cube. What happens to an ice cube when it gets a little warm? It melts. So women's eggs are like ice cubes. They're much more delicate, but the freezing techniques have improved greatly, and even frozen eggs are great. But in the United States, you can keep them forever. Even people who abandon them. I know somebody who said, I don't have my genetic material anymore. I stopped paying that bill years ago, and they're going to throw it away. I'm like, oh, no, no. Clinics in the United States very rarely, if ever, throw anything away regarding eggs, sperms, or embryos. So they're still there. So don't think because you stop paying your bill, they're not there. But that's another discussion. Anyways, in Belgium, you can only keep your frozen material for 5 years. If you do, they'll send you a letter, and if you do not respond, they will destroy your genetic material. So your eggs, your precious eggs and sperm. I'm dealing with this right now with one couple, and I'm devastated for them. They do have an embryo left, but I see why they do it though, because how much genetic material is left in the United States, right? A lot. In the UK, it's 10 years, but there were a dozen, so 12 fertility patients in the UK, and they'd been granted the right to keep their frozen sperm, eggs, embryos longer, despite they missed the 10-year mandatory renewal deadline. So Belgium, you have a renewal, and then I think you can keep it for another 1 to 2 years. I don't know what the renewal is if in the UK, if you could just keep renewing for another 10 years, right? And they said there was a consent error and the pandemic, just like my couple, they did it, I think, 4 to 5 years ago. It was during the pandemic. So the pandemic caused some confusion, they said, and there was some administrative failures, and it was 15 groups of patients. So including former cancer patients, and even if you don't have cancer, I mean, if you create your eggs at 35, those eggs are not going to be the same 5 years later at 40 for a woman. Even the sperm isn't going to be good, but men don't fall off that cliff as fast as we do, women. So, I mean, how frustrating. So, oof, if you're in Belgium or the UK, you might want to check on that, right? And they definitely ruled in favor of the people who wanted to say, hey, by the way, you didn't inform me, and it's right. You didn't process my paperwork correctly, but there's got to be a better way to do this. There has to be. Haven't thought of it yet, but if you have any ideas, let me know, right? All right, now we're going down to Argentina. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was 2024 when Argentina was very specific for surrogacy. All the surrogates had to give birth in Buenos Aires. It worked out well, even though all the surrogates were not from Buenos Aires, but it did work. I worked closely with an attorney. Um, there were a lot of people that utilized and worked with surrogates in Argentina. It worked well when you worked with good players, but there was a bad actor who worked outside Buenos Aires. And so the Argentina government shut down surrogacy, the whole process, even the process for the people getting home. So if you had a baby during that time, when they said no more surrogacy, the whole process is over, you were stuck. I know this one couple in Belgium. I mean, this couple had a very difficult time getting home. She was able to get home. And how horrifying. You're going to have a baby, your lifelong dream. And oh, by the way, I'm sorry, your surrogate's pregnant, your baby's fine, but her name's going to go on the birth certificate. And good luck getting home because we're not going to help you. Really, they just should have grandfathered all those people in. Gosh. Anyways, but they didn't. So there's an Australian couple, and they've been stranded for a year following the birth of their daughter in February 2025. See, they stopped it. So they really can't get home, they said. Hopefully, since this has been posted and it was in the newspapers, their government can help them get home. Hopefully, the surrogate, whatever she can do. I know for my couple, she got authorization to go out, and they were able to work out one name being on the birth certificate. And I don't know why this Australian couple is having such a hard time putting the husband on the birth certificate, maybe because the surrogate was married. But hopefully there's somebody who can help them so they can get home. They've gone into 10 Airbnbs. I think they have a whole, GoFundMe, so because the legal case is expensive for them. And, everybody, for the most part works remotely. But could you imagine having to, be in another country and having to do this with your baby? So hopefully somebody will help them. And my heart kind of breaks for them. I get it if it's a bad actor. Oh, bad actors in this industry just burn me because you're so vulnerable when you're wanting to have a baby. You have to maybe work with an egg donor, a surrogate, and like I said, good agencies and good people do the best work possible, so you have the best outcome as you possibly can. But oh, just really irks me. Anyways. So I have to say, there are some women who have I can't really say it, Meyer Rogatansky Kusterhauser. I just say MRKH. Some women are born without a uterus. We're not all born with the working parts, or if we're born with them like me, they don't always work. But there's a first British woman who had a womb transplant and did IVF and was able to have a baby. Just very first. It's not very common. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, kidney transplants, liver transplants, it's complicated. The timing, everything. You've got to be a blood match with the donor. If it's a heart transplant, the timing, right? Any transplant. It's complicated, it's expensive. I don't think this is going to become a thing. But for this woman, how wonderful that she was able to have a baby, right? So it's great. She delivered in December, and it's definitely rare, the whole process. There's only about 25 to 30 births from womb transplant. So it's definitely something that is not happening. Okay, staying in that realm, Austria. I know in the United States you can freeze your eggs. I know there's a lot of women from other countries that have come here to do this because I know in other countries, I think France just legalized for single women social egg freezing. So it really is something that is difficult for single women to do in other parts of the world, but the Austrian court has just officially legalized egg freezing. So there was a total ban on the procedure. I know when it started, even ASRM, the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, labeled it experimental, but it's no longer experimental. So they said it violated the rights for private and family life. Of course it does, right? So yay for Austria. So that was great. Okay, now I'm going to end with two kind of feel good stories because oh my gosh, I just loved the story, and have to end on a happy note. So I was reading and I found out that this woman who needed an egg donor was on the train in in the UK, so the London Underground, and she was talking about how she needed an egg donor, and for some reason, this total stranger sitting right next to her says, "I'll help you." Like, right? Like, obviously they were, it was the 90s and, I don't know how they got stuck up and struck the conversation up, but she was just telling her about, how this was, I couldn't get pregnant. And then the woman goes home. She'd already had a baby. First, her husband said no. And then, they were like, finally agreed to it. And now, the son that the woman was able to conceive with this wonderful woman who decided to donate to her. They've all met, and the son has a relationship with his egg donor, obviously, with his mother, of course. But what a great story and kind of happenstance, because that kind of happens some way. You meet somebody and you either become lifelong friends or something happens, you connect. And I thought, oh my gosh, on the London Tube, in the underground, that this is how they met. And they both kind of looked similarly. And it was just this chance moment on a train, kind of like that Gwyneth Paltrow movie. What was that? Oh my gosh, it was a long time ago. I think it was in the 90s too. But yeah, you just never know, right? So I love that story. Meet on the train tube, get an egg donor, and have a baby. It's really not that easy, but for these people, it was. Okay, the Olympics are just over, and if you were living under a rock, you don't know that Alyssa Liu won the gold medal in women's figure skating. A woman hadn't won the gold medal since 2022. It had been a long time. Oh my gosh, if you haven't seen her performance, it was magical, pure, pure joy. But she was born via a surrogate, as was all her siblings. Her father, Arthur Liu, has five children via surrogacy and egg donation. And Alyssa talks about it. She says that, she had discovered, she was born via surrogacy. Well, obviously a single dad. I mean, she kind of had to figure it out. She's the oldest, right? And she put two and two together when she didn't, Alyssa, when she's like, hey, I don't look full Chinese. Like, my dad's full Chinese and I kind of look like you, but I don't. And Arthur did, her father did say that he chose a Caucasian egg donor because he wanted to provide her with a diverse gene pool. And it really isn't negative to her. She has a woman that she considers a mom, and she's kind of like, it is what it is. It's not a weird thing. It's how I came into the world, and it's part of my story. So if you haven't looked that up and haven't seen Alyssa and her skate, please do because I loved it, and it keeps coming up in my feed time and time again. All right, that's it. That's all I have for you. Kind of a little quicker one this time around. If you have any questions, you can definitely ask me here, or you can reach me on all the socials. I'm like on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere, right? You can find me, you can email me. I hope you have a great day, night, evening, or whatever. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining. I love doing this and I love hearing from you. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks and bye.